Hello, cats and kittens. Orewa Jose, Yoroshku. I'm back in the crisis corner with a recommendation. This is a not a new release, but a new to me release, and I'll say that I don't actually go to the theaters that much anymore, which is not a new phenomenon, as George Miller is finding out, much to his detriment. A lot of people are not going to the theaters that much anymore. Therefore, I miss a lot of movies in theaters. This is a film that I truly regret missing in the theaters. Godzilla Minus One, just released over this weekend on Netflix. This Joker, I don't want to say it changed my life, but it's definitely changed my perspective on what can be done with tentpole movies. I'm going to make another video on tentpole movies, or the decline of tentpole movies and the decline of movies, theater movies in general. But this raised my expectations and raised my spirit, I guess you could say. Restored my faith in the tentpole movie. This was a great piece of work, Godzilla Minus One. Now, first of all, what is Godzilla Minus One? Uh, as an overview, uh, it was just released over the weekend, as I said, on Netflix. It's made in Japan, Toho Studios, directed by Yamakaze Takashi, on a budget of somewhere between estimates somewhere between 10 and 15 million. I've heard as high as perhaps 30, 35 million, but generally believe that the budget was 10 to 15 million. Let that sink in. And the box office came in worldwide at about 115.8 million. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, that's nothing compared to The Dark Knight and Avatar and all those other billion-dollar grosses from around the world. All right. Again, Furiosa, George Miller he's just made about 115 million and spent close to 170 million to get there. Okay, pound for pound, who won? All right. So there's that. They got their money's worth out of this. Now, what is it? What is Godzilla Minus One? It is the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise, the 33rd created by Toho Studios. Godzilla Minus One premiered on October 18th, 2023. Again, it's not a new movie, but it's new to me. Released in Japan on November 3rd, celebrating the 70th anniversary of the franchise. The film grossed, as I said, approximately 116 million worldwide. Again, on an estimated 10 to $15 million budget, making it the third highest grossing film in Japan of 2003, and surpassing Shin Godzilla as the most successful Japan-made Godzilla film in history. It attained numerous accolades from critics, from fans, including 12 nominations at the 47th Annual Japan Academy Film Awards, winning 8. It got 12 nominations, won 8. 3 nominations at the 17th Annual Asian Film Awards, won 2. And won the Best Visual Effects at the 96th Annual Academy Awards. Again, on a 10 to $15 million budget. Crazy. Now, the story of Godzilla Minus One. Here's the elevator pitch, you might say. Japan has barely recovered from the Second World War when a gigantic peril emerges off the coast of Tokyo. I gotta get this name right. Shikishima Koichi, a deserter traumatized by his first confrontation with Godzilla, sees this as an opportunity to redeem his conduct during the war. That's the elevator pitch, the nutshell. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's the film in a nutshell. To give context to that, Shikishima Koichi is a World War II kamikaze pilot. Basically, kamikaze pilots are not supposed to come home live. Kamikaze. So there's that. But he couldn't go through with the action of, you know, ramming his ship into the enemy. So what he did is he faked a a damage to his ship so that he could go to a base and basically get out of having the kamikaze. He goes to this base and says, "Oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it because there's something wrong with my ship." However, when he gets to the base, the chief engineer at the base, or one of the engineers at the base, a man named uh, Ta- uh, Tachiban Tach, Tachiban Saku, uh, yeah, Tachiban. Yeah. Anyway, the lead mechanic, he finds out that Koichi is lying and exposes him as a fraud, basically, or calls him out as a fraud, as someone who wasn't willing to do his duty for his country. But none of that matters because Chibi Godzilla, or a smaller version of Godzilla, attacks the base, Odo Island, which will be familiar to many of you who are fans of the Godzilla franchise. Chibi Godzilla attacks the soldiers on Odo Island, and Koichi has the opportunity to fire on Godzilla in his smaller state, hopefully killing him. But again, he's still so traumatized and fearful, he can't pull the trigger. God, the other soldiers do pull their triggers with smaller munitions, smaller guns, not as powerful as the gun that Koichi had available to him, leading to their quickly being dispatched by Godzilla, torn apart, stomped out, everybody except Koichi and Susaku, the sole survivors of Godzilla's first massacre. Godzilla goes off and goes back to doing whatever he was doing, and it isn't seen again for like 3 years. This leaves Koichi further traumatized, having failed his country by not doing his kamikaze missions out of fear, and again failing to kill Godzilla, or hopefully killing Godzilla. In fact, as we learn later on, likely his chances of killing him at that time were slight. I don't believe even if he fired the gun at Godzilla, he wasn't going to kill him. But he doesn't know that. So he's thinking he failed his country twice. He failed his soldiers. The families of those people who were killed, he actually is giving the pictures of the families of the people who were killed on the island, on Odo Island. You know, just these are the people that you failed. These are their families. They'll never see their husbands again, or their fathers, or whatever again. So this is just on his mind. He's traumatized for life. So Koichi returns home. He finds out that during the bombing of Tokyo, an actual historic event, his hometown is wiped out, is razed. His parents are dead. Probably all his friends or whatever are dead. Most of the city is just laid waste. So he henceforth during the film he is plagued by survivor's guilt. Now, having said that, the long and short of the story is that he begins to support other survivors in his hometown, specifically a woman named Oishi Nor, Nor, Noriko. Oishi Noriko and a child named Akiko. He actually creates a little family unit with these two. The interesting thing being that Oishi, none of the three are related. Oishi, or I guess Noriko, she takes up um, this child who had been abandoned, probably her parent, the child, a baby, an infant, whose parents likely were killed during the bombing. She takes up the baby, kind of foists him on Koichi, and there's also an auntie. You could say this also involved. They form this weird family where Koichi is never married to Oishi, and they never have relations. It's not like they're living in sin, so to speak. They're just survivors of this bombed out, depleted land, just living together for mutual survival. And it's just this weird family dynamic. They actually, he never commits to her as a wife or Akiko as a daughter, but they just take care of each other. It is just, it's heartbreaking, but it's also, it's just, it's very emotional. All right, the rest of the story is Koichi's redemption arc as he finally gets a chance to atone for his various failures in helping to dispatch Godzilla with the aid of other soldiers. That's the basic story. Now, I'm not going to give up too much of the plot details because honestly, I don't want to give that up. Watch it and see it. It's worth the ride. Now, what works about Godzilla Minus One? First thing that I will go to is in most kaiju movies, humans are set pieces. They are just incidental. They exist to be stomped by the monster. End of story. They're just there. Just like the buildings the kaiju knocks over, they're just there to scream, run, and eventually be stomped. Not so with Godzilla Minus One. The humans are the I say they're the focal point of the story, and they exist to give context to the monster. It's through the life of the protagonist and the people of Japan in general. They deepen the impact of Godzilla and give you a true sense of what he is has taken from them and what they've already lost. Godzilla is not the sympathetic hero in this story. He is not the anti hero of this story as he has been portrayed in many of the other Godzilla films. Godzilla is the villain of this story. Plain and simple. He's the bad guy. He's the monster. He is Mike Myers, Jason Voorhees, whatever. He's the mad killer in this slasher flick. And they actually succeeded in getting me to hate Godzilla. And that's saying something. And I go back to the films like, say, for instance, the Titanic, right? Be honest, who really went to see Titanic because they wanted to know about Jack and Rose? Okay, not to be ghoulish, But this were actual events. The sinking of the Titanic and the loss of all of those lives. So be it. But look, I went to see if James Cameron could get me to see with my own eyes the details of the sinking of that ship. To what extent could he present that to me and have me believe it? That's what I came there for. I had to wait through 2 hours of Rose and Jack to see that ship sink. And again, not to be a ghoul, not to be, hard hearted about it, whatever. When we see movies like Godzilla, King Kong, whatever, we're not thinking about the people. We come there to see Godzilla, King Kong, Mothra, Ghidorah, whoever. We come to see them wreck shop, period. Um, People, again, are just incidental to the plot. Again, not so with Godzilla minus one. There's a marriage between the people and the monster. Both give each other context, both give each other weight. And that's what you're getting with Godzilla minus one. It's a beautiful marriage between the human element and the just spectacle of the monster. It's brilliant in that respect. Also, Godzilla's rampages are spotted. He does go on various rampages, land and on sea, but it's not a constant barrage of destruction. It is spotted in the film to give maximum effect. You feel it every time he terrorizes these people. You're like, they barely survive, and you're like, oh, your heart's beating for them. How much more of this can they take? Just go away, dude. Ease up on these cats. You know what I mean? You feel like telling Godzilla, yo, slow it down, man. Leave these cats alone. But if he was just constantly barreling through and crushing things, you just be like, oh, you know. So the minimalism, and I'm not saying that he's barely in the movie. He's in the movie, but they spot it to the proper degree for it to have full effect. Also, the special effects, they use a lot of nice set pieces, practical effects, not a lot of CGI, but when they have to use it, it's used to good effect. And again, it's extremely effective. And I say this is most, to me, one of the main samples or examples is his atomic breath. It's only used a handful of times in the movie, but when it's used, it is absolutely devastating. And they even make a an emphasis on the effort that it takes for him to produce it. When he uses his atomic breath, the whole thing with the spine, with the his spine lighting up, but he grows extra spikes on his back. He takes a deep inhale, and you can see the air going in, and then he cuts loose with a devastating blast that can only be described as an atomic bomb going off, even mushroom cloud and all. It is absolutely devastating. I liken it to those of you that are Star Blazers fans to the wave motion gun being activated. It doesn't just go pow. It's the setup. People pulling levers. The cannon lights up, and then boom, the cannon goes off. The wave motion cannon goes off, and like Miyagi say about crane style, done properly, there's no defense. Nothing you can do about his atomic breath. All you can do is die. That's it. if the if the detonation doesn't get you, the shock waves just level buildings. It's like Shinra Tensei to you Naruto fans. It's devastating. And these are people that already seen Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So what's that doing to the people? It's just there's layers to it. It's just it's and again, I ain't trying to be foolish, but it's a kaiju movie, so it is what it is. What else works about this movie? The score. There's some nostalgic music, I believe, even from the first Godzilla, the original Godzilla movies. Godzilla's intro music is straight nostalgic, very powerful. Uh, the score I think is very good. The acting performances are excellent because they're given a great story. Now, some will say this is, some of the acting might be over the top, campy, but you got to take into account the genre and the technique of Japanese actors. They're more expressive, outwardly expressive, I guess you could say, than what American actors, I guess, try to do in conveying emotion and conveying. I don't know how you would put that. Their acting is more over the top, I would say, than American stylistically than American performances, I guess. Anyway, I think, but at heart, this movie has a ton of emotion, a ton of heart, and that's conveyed by the actors. They do a fantastic job with that. So, special effects, story, um, acting performances, music, all of that works. What doesn't work? The only thing that I can think of that doesn't work is there are two plot twists towards the end of the movie that I think are telegraphed. And I've heard other people say that they felt the same. That's about it. And I don't even feel bad about them being telegraphed. I saw them coming, but I was like, whatever, man. I was cool with it. So there's that. So the final verdict, until seeing this film, the tentpole movie was pretty much dead to me. Not since really Endgame, Avengers Endgame. Maybe a couple of the Spider Mans, but in terms of tentpole movies, they just become lackluster, middle of the road, very safe. I recently saw Doom also, but that's not the same genre and not terribly exciting. Well done. I like Doom 2 and I like Doom 1, but I'm not gonna it's apples and oranges in terms of the movies themselves, but anyway, that's another review. But yeah, the tentpole movie was dead to me until this point. Uh, this revived my belief that you can make a great tentpole movie without spending billions of dollars on them, which ultimately requires higher prices at the concessions and then for the tickets. You know, which you're going to have to pay anyway. But these over budgeted, underachieving tentpole movies don't have to be that way. With 10 to 15, maybe up to $35 million, Toho produced a great film. And I mean a great film, a great kaiju movie, but just a great movie, period. I mean, I think Godzilla minus one is the best kaiju movie since the original Godzilla. It's on that level. And I don't know which one's better. I'd had to go back and watch the old Godzilla to be sure. I would probably say minus one is might edge it out, but I gotta respect the OG, so I'm not gonna say that right now. But all the rest of them, smoke all of them, flat out. And some of them weren't bad, but this is a very, very, very good movie, extraordinary, in fact. So there's that. I highly, highly recommend Godzilla minus one, and I only hope that Hollywood takes notice and learns something from this film. But let me know what you think. Did you enjoy Godzilla minus one? Have you seen it? If you haven't, hurry up, get on it. It's worth it. And my biggest regret is that I did not see this in the theaters. But, live and learn. So until next time, again, let me know what you think about Godzilla minus one. And until next time, stay loose.